Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're from. Welcome to Message to Movement Winning at Being You. I'm your host, Coach Mills Rogers. This is a space where we have real conversations with real people who are using their voice, their experiences, and their purpose to create impact, not just for themselves, but for others. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Brian Olds. We're going to talk about identity, purpose, leadership, growth, and all kinds of things. What it actually looks like to win at being who you are without pretending or performing. If you're watching live, feel free to drop where you're watching from in the comments. And so let's get to it. Brian Olds is a community builder, media producer, and systems driven strategist working at the intersection of storytelling, technology, and entrepreneurship. He is the founder of Black Speakers Network, a thriving ecosystem connecting over 100,000 speakers, content creators, authors, event organizers, and brands across nearly every industry. Through BSN, Brian helps professionals amplify their message, access opportunity, and reach the audiences they are called to serve. Known for blending big picture vision with practical execution, Brian hosts and produces conversations with founders, creators, and culture shapers who are actively building what's next. His work centers on one core belief: the future belongs to those who can combine story, systems, and community to create meaningful change. Without further ado, Brian, thank you so much for being with us today.
Man, thank you, man. Listen, I know I can't afford you, but if I could afford you, I would absolutely bring you to anything I'm doing. Just show up, be like, hey, listen, this guy's about to introduce me. Don't worry about it. And we got two brothers holding it down. So I appreciate being here, man. Um, Thank you for the invitation.
All right, you're welcome. You're welcome. For those of you who are tuning in and being introduced to Brian for the first time, tell us a little bit about who you are and your journey.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, first of all, I always like to tell people I'm just a kid from Baltimore. And if you're not familiar with Baltimore, you might have this impression of The Wire. And I don't know, most people have seen The Wire. There's actually a show that I believe kind of gets a little bit more gritty called The Corner that came out before The Wire that both feature Baltimore. And those two properties have kind of shaped people's perspective of what Baltimore is, but it's clearly much more than that. Baltimore is an incredible place and city. So anytime I get an opportunity, Mills, to kind of talk to a new audience, I am going on a kind of mini branding campaign just to help people. If you haven't checked out Baltimore, if you're a great seafood fan, if you're a sports fan, if you're a fan of, good people, and obviously every major city has its challenges, but I grew up here, man, and I still live in the greater Baltimore-ish area, but definitely consider myself a global citizen. So, but first and foremost, I'm a kid from Baltimore. I grew up, man, watching, just dreaming about uh, a future beyond what my current situation is. If you know anybody that grew up in kind of chaotic environments or aka the hood or the trap or whatever you want to call it, it's not exactly filled with inspiration. And so I found myself as a kid absorbed with television, man. I don't know, were you a TV kid, Mills? Were you
Oh
raised
yeah,
partially by TV?
yeah, well, Gen X. So
Yeah.
yeah, we watched a lot of TV back then because there wasn't any phones. So it was either that, video games, or outside.
I love it. And so your generation, the Gen X, I say, and I'm what they call, Mills, I don't know if you've heard this term, a geriatric millennial. And
Yeah.
so I was born in mid early 80s. So I kind of got a little bit of that Gen X sensibility, but I'm definitely lean more into the millennial. But regardless, y'all grew up on network television. We grew up with
Mhm.
cable in the beginning of streaming. Like we watched Instagram, Facebook, Google. Like we used to dial up, remember getting those AOL discs in the mail and trying to get online for the first time. And so our generation lived through that and the 9/11s and the economic change and so many major things that shaped the world. So as I introduce myself, I always like to give that backdrop that, hey, I am just a kid from Baltimore. I'm one of two. I have a older brother. I was the one who went to college. He didn't. And so, if I was to draw an analogy, it would kind of be like, I don't know if you guys follow hip hop, but, if you look at a group like the Clips, You kind of like,
Mhm.
you got Pusha T and Malice, kind of two sides of the same coin. Not to say we were doing what they were doing to get money, but that absolutely, I think when I think about my family dynamic, my history, had an opportunity to actually go through the education process, tried my best to try to follow the script. My mother's goal for me was to go to school, not have a bunch of kids early, and also not get arrested. And so by 18, I managed to dodge those statistics and get into college. Went to Morgan State University with my eyes kind of influenced by space and technology because, again, raised by television, I got immersed in the world of cartoons and space shuttle launches, and I just love science and technology, man. And so fast forward to today, I really just feel myself fortunate as an opportunity, as a person who has an opportunity to come from where I came from, still haven't got to the place that I'm going, but actively building and really just offering a unique perspective, man, because a lot of people, I think, it's one thing to see something on television or read a book or hear about somebody achieving something in life and be inspired, but it's another thing to go after it. And you may not get it, by 25 or 30 or any of these theoretical benchmarks, but I think it is important to have something that you can look at to draw inspiration from. And that's what I've been working on, man.
So I know that you're the president of Black Speakers Network. What was the inspiration for that? You founded it, and so how did that come about?
Yeah, man. Black Speakers Network was an idea that we had. So, first of all, anybody that's ever started something, you probably realize that the iteration of the version of the product, service, or program that you have now probably wasn't the beginning. Like, when Disney founded, they created, like, have you ever seen like the early scripts of like Mickey Mouse, what Mickey Mouse used to look like?
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
scary, bro. Like, and the first the not the dash on Disney, but just everybody knows it. So I like to use that as an example. You know how they dress up in the theme parks with the characters that walk around?
Right.
You in your free time, if you have time, just go Google like early Mickey Mouse costume and look how scary those actual costumes were. I have no idea how they made it through the first year, but that's how things is. The first iPhone, doesn't have apps. It's everybody starts somewhere. And so with me, my start
Exactly.
somewhere was essentially I was part of a program called Toastmasters. For those who don't know, Toastmasters is an incredible program. I know you've taken Toastmasters by Storm Mills, so you've seen a
I
lecture.
actually haven't done it.
You have it? Oh, I thought you were Toastmaster. My bad.
No,
Okay.
no, I
I'm out here
haven't.
getting, well, I'm speaking it into existence then. Cool.
Well,
Okay.
hey, I was a teacher, so I always tell people I had 6 to 7 opportunities a day to speak in front of an audience.
And that's what it is. Like, as long
Mhm.
as you're in front of, and most people, they don't have that baked in opportunity as their job. If you're an accountant or a software engineer, or you are a, whatever else that doesn't put you in front of an audience regularly, Toastmasters is an incredible place where you can go and cultivate those skills. And so I was hanging out at Morgan State University. I actually went to Morgan originally because I wanted to be an engineering major. My secret goal was to be kind of like what Elon Musk is now. I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. I wanted to really, if I was born like 700 years in the future, I'm sure I would be in Starfleet or something like that. But for now, I really want to be an astronaut. But Mills, that daggone calculus 2 differential equations, it was like, nah, you might want to hold on a little bit. And so I switched my major. I don't know if anybody has ever in the comments maybe put me, if you've ever gone through like a change or a math, like you're planning one thing and life kind of pushes back and you decide to go another direction. And so in college, I was kind of lost. I switched my major to business, really didn't know what business was. I was just kind of going through the motions.
I can definitely relate. I changed my major 3 times.
3 times. See, and that's the thing. Like who knows? I mean, very few people, and for people that have their whole life figured out at 17, God bless you. But I was not one of those people. It took about
And so
another four.
we got YB chiming in. He said him too. He said he changed his major.
Yeah. And YB went through the Enrolls program, so we definitely have. He's the LinkedIn locksmith, y'all. Great member here at Black Speakers Network as well, and platform partner. But going through those experiences really helped like shape me. So anyway, I found myself at Morgan State University, kind of lost. And when they spun up the Toastmasters program, which was again an opportunity to speak in front of audiences, to get feedback real time, I said, I am now. I used to be afraid of speaking. I'm talking about I couldn't lead two people in silent prayer, let alone stand in front of an audience and try to lead them to some sort of transformation. And so I saw public speaking as an existential challenge for myself. I knew if I could break through that barrier, I didn't know what would be on the other side, but I just knew that climbing that mountain, at a minimum, I'll be stronger. I'll be able be more confident. I'll be able to walk into rooms. And so the impetus for BSN, or the seed, actually started way back Morgan State University, circa 2007. We didn't call it that back then. I had another organization that I spun up called Skills. That was my iPhone 1 moment. That was my ugly Mickey moment. So Skills, it was a cool acronym. It stood for Sharing Knowledge and Information for Lifelong Success. And we might have some people watching that were around back in the 2008, 2009 time frames. I don't know. Nils, do you remember Blog Talk Radio?
No, I never heard of it.
Okay, yeah, I'm getting deep, man. So yeah, I'm going into the internet lore, man. That's in the same category as probably like the MySpace, the Black Planets of the world, the
You remember those?
Yeah, the Ash Jeeves, remember that back there? So
Yeah,
we can pull in some internet lore, but basically, before we had streaming platforms like we do today, there was this platform called Blog Talk Radio, and basically our theme, it was basically like a live blog essentially, so people can watch. It was like early live streaming, and it was called the #1 show to help professionals learn and grow. And so I've been interviewing professionals, entrepreneurs, my peers, people I connected through a Toastmaster, and just other professionals all the way back to 2008. And then, obviously we made no money because I had no idea what I was doing, but it gave me practice. It gave me an opportunity to learn, like, oh, this is how you make a website. Here's how you go live. Here's how you set up lights. And then that evolved, and eventually the idea came about to create a formalized speakers network. And that came about because with Toastmasters, you're learning how to speak. You're learning fundamentals of presentation skills. And you probably already know this, Mills. When you first start speaking, your initial goal when you're speaking is not to be an incredible, impactful, transformational speaker. Your goal is just to survive. Your goal is, hey, I got 5 minutes to speak. Let me get up there, not forget what I'm going to say, and sit back down. If you can do that, that's a win. But as you evolve, you start to learn things like vocal variety, hand gestures, how to use the stage, how to use PowerPoint or visual aids, how to incorporate props, how to give eye contact, how to not say but so many times through a sentence. We have these things called grammarians. And so Toastmasters was great. And Toastmasters is great, still an active organization with thousands of clubs. I always recommend it. Toastmasters is an incredible place if you are afraid of speaking, or you haven't been, you're not in a position, let's say like a job or career that puts you in front of a natural audience on a regular basis. If you're saying you need to be a speaker, you kind of need to speak by hook or by crook. You need to be on somebody else's stages or creating your own. And Toastmasters has a built-in stage. Like, I don't know a Toastmasters meeting that's not looking for speakers ever. And those the people there, you're not necessarily going to sell stuff, but you're learning feedback. But I have gotten business from Toastmasters.
wow.
We can talk about that later, but if you want. But my point is, I started at Morgan State University in this Toastmasters program, created this company called Skills, and those planted the seeds for what eventually became Black Speakers Network, because Toastmasters is really, really focused on the art of speaking, getting more comfortable and putting together a presentation and delivering it. It doesn't really go into the business of how to position yourself as a speaker. How much do you charge? How do you get paid? How do you, brand yourself? How do you figure out a target market? How do you talk to meeting planners? What do they even want from you? And so as I started learning this whole professional speaking side, I realized that we needed an organization that would contextualize that knowledge. And so we came up with Black Speakers Network. So I founded the organization, I think that was back in 2016. There's always all these different dates. It's like the day you had the idea, the date that you filed your LLC, the date you got money. They're all different dates. But around 2016, we spun up the community that we now have, which is, the Facebook group. And from there, started hosting live programs. We did speaker development classes literally every Thursday night. Again, same thing, interviewing experts, bringing them in. We started a platform partner program, and the rest is history.
Okay, man. And so it's been quite a journey. I know it's a big group. You know, you have what, 100,000?
You know, the numbers, I always say the broader community is about 100,000 across all of our followership. When you add up the YouTube, the Instagram, Facebook, email list, all that. And we've had 1 million views, over 1 million views across all of our different platforms. So yeah, that's the footprint. So we have the larger BSN community, and then we have a membership like you're a part of, which is kind of more exclusive. That's $25 a month currently, $250 a year. When it's on sale. But basically the idea is that we have this premium program for folks who are interested in getting like direct access to speaking opportunity alerts. Those are the folks that anytime we have custom speaking opportunities, like we just released this program this week called 6 Minute Talk. So they get access to that, but the broader community is around 100,000.
So I know this has been quite a journey for you. And so what have you found most surprising about the journey from Toastmasters to being president of Black Speakers Network and to where you are today?
I think the most surprising thing is that in school, like I heard this quote before, it's like in school, first you get the lesson, then you get the test. But in life, it's kind of the reverse. First, in life, you go through a whole bunch of tests, like a bunch of trials, you experiment, you try things out. And then if you're paying attention, then you get the lesson and then you move forward. And so it's kind of a reverse view. And I think that's held true across all of my professional engagements, going back to Morgan State University when I was, when we're still building this thing to now. There's so much you learn as an entrepreneur every single day. And I think sometimes the perception is that, hey, I can just either duplicate what somebody else is doing. Like you see somebody else doing really well, like, oh, there's a new guy with a chest and this nose thing, Alex Hormozi, great. He's doing ads, so let me just do this. And it's like, oh, somebody said I need books, let me do that. And somebody said I need to host events, so I'll start do that. And you could find yourself stopping so much that it really doesn't lead to meaningful progress. And so I think the journey as an entrepreneur is way more internal than I realized. I think that, and this is a benefit I think I've had of just trying different entrepreneurship journeys early and failing early, because now in my 40s, I'm realizing your business is always going to be at some level an external representation of what's happening internally. And so to the extent that you're organized, the extent that you know your mission, the extent that you aren't, insecure or worried about what other people think or whatever, all of that shows up in how you deliver programming. And so I think that's been the most surprising. Most people talk about the mechanics of building business. So it's like, you got to have a website, you got to have speaker video, you got to position yourself here. Here's, we look for templates and stuff like that. And those things are helpful. I'm not saying they're not. Like anything where you don't have to start from scratch when you're building something is preferred. But I think the bigger thing that we don't really get a chance to talk about, because it doesn't really sit in a marketing well set. It does, but it doesn't, because all marketing is psychology at the end of the day. It's like marketing is like applied psychology. We are teaching people how other people think so you can sell products and services to those people in a way that helps them not, be turned off by it or whatever. And so
let me ask you this, because, and you might have already touched on it, but what do you know now that would have maybe saved you some time, or, if you had to give somebody some game on how to deal with this entrepreneurship, whether it's to be a speaker or start some other business, what do you know now that could maybe save them some time that you wish you would have known? And you might have touched on it already.
No, not really. I think it might be embedded in some of those. First of all, great question, man. That's why I love being interviewed with you. It's like, It's like being on, Dateline or something. It's like, we're going to get the real questions. But so, no, this is good. So I think a few things. One is when it comes to just business in general, everything's an experiment. And so honestly, you can look at all the YouTube tutorials, even Black Speakers Network. We're constantly sending out resources, information, tools, master classes, resources. But are resources only as good as your internal belief systems and capacity, and allows you to consume, internalize, and actually take action on it. And you've probably seen this. How many times are you delivering content in an audience? It could be 100, 200 people in that audience. Not everybody's going to take action on what you're talking about. Only a small percentage of those people are even paying attention. You got some other people in the audience, they're thinking about, man, did I turn the oven off? Oh man, I gotta make dinner tonight. Oh man, I'm sitting here, but I really need to be working.
You mean not everybody's listening to me, man?
They're not. I mean, I can lie to you, tell you they are. They're looking at you, but they're not invest because they're not ready yet. They got out of bed this morning with so much stuff on their mind, they just can't. And so part of it, and that's another thing, going back to secrets too, is not all you. Like some of the stuff, you can have the best product, you can be the best leadership coach, you can have the best accounting software, you can do whatever. But some people, it's not that you don't have a great offer. Some people literally are just not ready to consume it. Like they're not organized enough. They're not in a place where they're ready to receive information. Even if they open the email, even if they watch the video, even if they're sitting in an audience. And so I think that's another thing, or a piece of advice I would give to 20, 25-year-old Brian or anybody listening is you got to give yourself grace.
I kind of like what you're saying right there about giving yourself grace. Validation is a big thing. And obviously the things that you just touched on have to do with validation. And so what words of wisdom do you have in regards to that? Because when we're in business, we're always looking to get validation in the form of purchases or, or people using our services or whatever else. And so how do you deal with that? Because again, that can really either you can rise up or you can sink because of it.
Well, I think in today's era, what I would say is we have the tools and the technical framework to capture validation and measure it better than any other generation in history. Like 20 years ago, like when I started, you couldn't just pull up a YouTube. You can go search a YouTube channel and say, so if I'm thinking about putting out content on, I don't know, figuring out, well, I mean, we have programs now. So I'm doing this YouTube partnership with Keandra. We got a masterclass. And so as I'm looking up trends on YouTube and trying to see which pain points people are struggling with, making sure like our marketing copy is correct, I now can go to again, how much does it cost to use YouTube?
How much it costs?
Yeah, it's free. YouTube is free. It's the number 2 search engine on the planet. I mean, you can buy premium, which if you do not use YouTube Premium, you are a psychopath, because I am not watching a 4-minute ad on a Toyota Tacoma. Not against Toyota, but just saying, like, I need to go directly to what I'm trying to find. Anyway, YouTube is free market research. And so you can quickly validate, okay, what are people searching for? And even within a specific video, like let's say I watch one of your YouTube videos, you know how when you watch a video, you can see like a little heat map and you can see how many times people replayed a certain section. So now, not only is YouTube giving us, again, I just want to reiterate this, for free, you not only get an opportunity to see like, okay, somebody put out a video on this topic. It got either 10 views or 10,000 views or somewhere in between. So you validated interest. Then in the video itself, you can see exactly what topics people are most interested in by looking at the metadata. And that's just one example. There's hundreds of ways to get free marketing insights now just with the tools that we have available. And so we're in a time now where it's easier to ever to get that insight, and it's easier to ever to deploy those little small tests on your own brand, being able to put up a Instagram reel talking about a topic. Again, all of us are holding this magic talisman around. Mine is kind of dirty, but everybody's holding their magic talisman. You're walking around with a stage in your pocket. We weren't walking around with a stage in our pocket in 2007. We were walking around with a flip phone that barely played Snake. So the idea now that you can go direct to consumer with your message, and guess what? And the thing I love now about Instagram and TikTok specifically, maybe YouTube Shorts to a lesser extent, but essentially these platforms now are not optimized. They're really no longer social media platforms. They are something else, because social media imply, hey, it lets you connect with your friends and family. But most content, you could put out a video right now and it could go viral. It's going to miss 99% of your subscribers, people who are following you because they know you and like you, and go directly to that target audience. And you get to decide, you get to tell, oh man, this is something people really like. So before spending 3 years trying to perfect my brand new program on whatever, I can put up 10 videos that might take a half an hour, 30 minutes to cut all at once, cut them up, put them up, and see how people respond, and then slowly make tweaks along the way. And if you get people who are interested online, then of course that's going to translate to offline interest in the form of events as well.
Yeah. So, of course, you're the president of Black Speakers Network, and it has grown. And so what lessons has that growth taught you? Because you started from the bottom, now you're here. And so, yeah, tell us a little bit more about how that has essentially gone from a message to a movement, hence the name of this conversation.
Yeah, so I think that the growth of Black Speakers Network, and by the way, I think that's another thing to kind of put some realistic framework around, because Black Speakers Network is still growing. Like, it's not like we've reached a place where it's like, most of us are used to looking at these graphs of business growth and assuming that's the normal line. So it's like, hey, you have a product, you have an idea. I'm trying to do this the right way because it's mirrored. You have a product idea, you announce it, people immediately want it, and then sales just go up like this, like parabolic. Most, I mean, that might be the case with like Google or ChatGPT or some other consumer product that has millions of dollars of market research or was well positioned or whatever. But for most people, growth looks like this. You got an idea, and then you try something out, and nobody cares. And then you try something else, and nobody cares. And you try something else, and some people care. And then you try to pivot off of that, and then you build a small community, and you take that small community, but then people start dropping off, and then you're like, okay, you find something else that they work, and then they pay you open up a pay gate, which is what we did. We created a membership program, but then something else happens. So you're never building in a silo. Like, new technology is coming up, new competitive threats are announced, the way people buy and consume information has changed. Like, it would be insane to try to run Black Speakers Network the same way we did in 2016. Like, we were using directories and things of that nature, which again, helpful at the time in a web 1.0 world, but in a web 3.0 world, where the number one search engine very soon is probably going to be one of the AI platforms. We don't know which one yet. Probably Google Gemini, if Google has anything to say about it. Probably ChatGPT, if Microsoft has anything to say about it. But at the end of the day, these represent external changes that are going to change whether you as a brand change or not. So growth very rarely looks like that. Growth looks like more like this. And I think that's the biggest lesson and the biggest observation for me, is that growth is not linear. That you could have a $200,000 business last year and have a $50,000 business next year, and have a $75,000 business the year after that, and have a $500,000 bit. Like, it changes. And again, it's not all variable based on the evolution. There's a lot of factors at play. So you kind of have to always stay in this mode where you are constantly asking why. Why are people buying? Why are people not buying? Why are people showing up to my webinar? Why are people not showing up to a webinar? Why is my income
So,
up? Why is it down? And so to the extent that, and again, what I'm saying right now, these are easy questions, but most people, if you're so busy in the minutia and you don't have time to slow down to ask those questions and more importantly implement the potential answers to them, it's going to be a challenge to continuously grow that brand. So that's my main thing I want people to know, is that growth is not linear. And I will say, just as a side note, I'm not a financial expert or anything like that. We got lots of financial planners and business experts in BSN to talk to, but I would recommend, even if you have a blip of great business, like let's say you launch something and gets really successful, I mean, maybe you won't want to call it like a rainy day fund, but start treating your business like that funding source to run out at any time. Because again, one technological change or one disruption in the marketplace could potentially put you at a position where you may not have to start from scratch, but you have to, we call it pivot. I don't really like the name pivot, Mills, because pivot to me kind of indicates that, pivot when you're like a ballerina or something, it's just a quick little, it's a turn.
mhm.
Yeah, I feel like we do little pivots every day. Like I'm always pivoting, but like a lot of times when we say pivot, what we really mean is whatever that move when you have to turn a battleship. A battleship is like a floating city. Like a battleship can't turn on a dime. It takes some time to move that thing around. And when you're running a business, it's more like that maneuver. You're doing little pivots, but sometimes you like, yo, we're going to the Indian Ocean. We probably need to go to the Atlantic Ocean. Let's reset course. And that reset course is going to take time to turn the ship to the proper direction, and it's going to take time to get there. And you need room to be able to process those types of changes as an entrepreneur growing through that.
So as an entrepreneur, you talked about looking at the data and the metrics and everything. And when you were saying that, I was like, how can somebody discern when to maybe sit still as opposed to saying, okay, maybe we need to tweak this, we need to change it, because I think it's easy to overreact. You see the metrics and you might be like, well, dog it, they didn't attend this webinar. I must have did something wrong. And so now you want to change everything. And so I'm just curious, like, how do you, again, how do you have that sense of discernment as to when to make a move versus when not to make a move?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to pretend to have the perfect answer to that, but I do think some things to keep in mind. One is, so I mentioned kind of adopting more of a scientific method to this, right? And again, I am not a scientist, but I have stayed at a Holiday Inn Express one time, and that is only going to be funny to like 3 people watching this. But the point is, I've seen, I took science in school. I'm loosely familiar with the scientific method. When you're running a science experiment, there's a couple of things you need to kind of have in place. Most scientists don't run experiments indefinitely. We're like, we're trying to see if we can produce this chemical reaction. They don't have years and years. Like one thing you set in an experiment is a time horizon. I'm going to observe this for 3 days. I'm going to observe it for 3 weeks. I'm going to give myself 90 days. You set the conditions, the variables, and a time horizon. You do an observation, list the results, and then you make a you make a hypothesis in the beginning, and then based on the outcome of the experiment, you either are proving the hypothesis is either supported, it's disproven, or it's unclear. And either one of those answers is perfectly acceptable. The scientist, if the results come back, positive, the scientist doesn't feel a way about it. He's not like, oh man, I knew it. Cancer, is bad. Okay, we knew that already. Like, or this particular process didn't work the way we thought it would. Either way is good because the answer is you have data. So I think part of it allows us to be, if we can adopt a more scientific approach, for lack of a better term, as entrepreneurs, then I think that would allow us to have a more balanced perspective of what we're trying to achieve. Because the reality is, again, building business is hard. But anything worth having is challenging and difficult.
Right.
Like it's going to take time to figure out what your brand voice is. It's going to take time to figure out your marketing strategy. It's going to take time to figure out pricing. It's going to take time to figure out which keynote you want to offer to different organizations. If you're brand new, it's going to take time to figure out if you're more of a college speaker or university speaker, or you like to host your own events, or you're going to be more of a content creator. Like it takes time. And the only way you can get to that is experiments, data, reflection, and adjustments, aka pivoting, and so that would be my recommendation. Sometimes we talk about like the pieces of the puzzle, but the reality is that we need all of it. Like we need to be able to have mechanisms where we're like, you know what, I'm gonna give this 90 days. In 90 days, I'm gonna do I'm gonna show up every day on this platform. I'm gonna run this webinar. I'm just throwing out 90 days, but it could be 60 days. The individual time horizons are calibrated by your own business goals, your own capacity. Like some of us are still working full time. Some of us work on multiple jobs. Like Crystal and I got a session coming up talking about ownership later this week with Graphy. Like most of us are not just doing any one thing. And so it's important that we have a plan so that we can stay focused and disciplined when it is time to approach those areas that we want. And then the last thing I'll say about it is that there's an X factor that I don't hear talked about a lot, but I think is very important. And that X factor is, again, internal. It's intuition. Only you. It's kind of like going back to the 90s day. Like, you know how they used to be like, only you can prevent forest fires. Yeah, I mean, there's other things that contribute to forest fires that have nothing to do with me. But yes, I can play a more proactive role in preventing them, sure. But only you can know what's right for your business. And so it doesn't matter what somebody else says, the opinion of your partners or whatever. At the end of the day, if you're like, I ran this experiment, I saw this result, and now there's an option. The data is saying maybe I should do this, but what does your instinct say? And that instinct gets refined over time. But if you're going against violating your own instinct, you're going to roll down the street with a foot on the brake anyway. And that's not good either. And so that final check when you have exhausted the data is internal, your intuition. And there are people that your intuition will take you to a place where the data drops off, because the data is only going to say what's happening. It's not going to say exactly what to do next. People who are waiting for exactly what to do next don't make great entrepreneurs. You need
and that's what I found is, a lot of times people want the exact blueprint, and that is almost non-existent, because especially in the speaking game, we're the product. And so I can give you exactly what I've done, but it might not work because you're not me. You don't have you're not the same person. You don't have the same charisma or whatever else. I'm not saying that I'm all that. I'm just using that as an example.
No, you got the charisma.
So, that's what I found challenging when I talk to people is that, they want the exact blueprint and they want it to happen. And, in my own journey, I found that, hey, I'm trying different things. And I think the one thing is you have to detach your ego from the results, because some things might not work, and that's okay. I always say nobody's thinking about you as much as you. And so if it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. They're moving on. They got 100 million things in their news feed. So, carry on. And so, that's kind of my thoughts about it also.
Yeah. I'm listening to a great book right now, 50 Cent, and he talks about in there, being like, he talks about fear, like in the very beginning. And I'm like, I listening to a book on audio. I this is my first time. I haven't watched Power. I've watched Raising Kanan, but I haven't consumed all of his content or whatever. And I haven't seen many 50 Cent interviews. So listen to the book. I'm coming in kind of cold. And I'm like, man, I'm expecting him to talk about being ruthless and that, and whatever. And he's starting the audiobook talking about vulnerability. And it's like talking about fear. He's not talking about vulnerability, but he's in a vulnerable place because he's talking about the times in his life when he was afraid. And his mindset and approach to fearlessness is like not being afraid. And I think we all know that like fear isn't absent. I mean, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the ability to take action despite of it. He talks about running towards your fears in a way that allows him to do that. And I think there's something to that because most people are to an extent controlled. They allow fear to control a large part of their decisions. And fear is just information. It's just like any other emotion that's coming in. It's telling us like, hey, look out for something. Fear isn't implicitly telling us to not do something or that we're going to be penalized for doing something or not doing something. It's just coming from somewhere. And so I think that to the extent that we can lean into being more intentional about acknowledging fear, but not using it to just objectively control which direction we go is going to be important because he mentioned that in the book. He's like, yo, 99% of my people, his like competition, the people he goes up against or whatever in business, he's like, yo, they opt themselves out before it even gets to them. And so just by being not fearless, but embracing what it means to acknowledge your fear and move forward anyway, you separate yourself from like 95% of the competition out there.
This has been wonderful, man. I mean, we're getting close to the end. I hate to even end it, man, because you've been sharing so much. But one thing I do want to ask you, you're in a prominent position, as the face of Black Speakers Network. And so I know a lot of people come at you. And I'm sure some of them are like, hey, you should do this, or why aren't you doing that? Or they may even offer criticism. How do you deal with those things?
Yeah, well, I first, please. I mean, because there's two types of criticism. I think criticism is incredibly helpful. There's two types of criticism, though. There's constructive criticism, and then there's, I don't even have a word for it, but maybe we're just, for lack of better term, call it unhelpful criticism,
Shade
or whatever. Because I think it what matters is the intent. And so if I perceive that the intent is, hey, Brian, listen, man, I love Black Speakers Network. I've been around since the beginning. I want to see y'all win. What's up with these typos? Bro, we got to do something about the typos. Like, and that's great criticism. Hey, have you heard of Grammarly? Are you on the Pro Pack? Do you want me to give you a free month? Want to try it out? You want to join our team account? Like, constructive criticism plus a resource, that to me is like a love language. One of my the love languages, Mills, like acts of service, all that. Yeah, my top love languages are acts of service and like what's the other one? I think quality time. What's up? Gifts.
Yeah, that's one of them. Touch.
Yeah. But
words of affirmation.
Touch don't apply. You don't got touch.
Words of affirmation.
So words of affirmation is high up there too. I know that I need it, but it's appreciated if it comes from an authentic place. Now, unhelpful criticism is, man, I don't understand why you can't, get me booked on a stage. And it's like, well, are you even a member? And also, what's going on? Like, it's so many like things that come wrong when people come direct. And again, I don't mind, like, this whole thing, just for me, all of Black Speakers Network is one big experiment. I feel like it's going really well. But the reason I started it is because I think one of the biggest ways to achieve our goals is through community. Not everybody's going to have all the answers. And even once people do have the answers, to your point, somebody may want to learn from you versus me, or Dr. Will Moreland, or Ashley Kirkwood, or a Dr. Cheryl Wood, or Keandra Jackson. Like, they may resonate with that style more. And so Black Speakers Network, I think, is a little different because, I'm not positioning us as the end all be all, like, yo, you got to come here to learn everything is about speaking. We put together resources, materials, programming, podcasts. We host events, we create stages, but at the end of the day, everybody's responsible for charting their own path, and not everybody is some people do need to be in a coaching format that's more hands-on. Like, hey, I'm going to take your hand. I'm going to call you every Tuesday. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. Okay, this week we're reading chapter 4. Follow along, and that's fine. Like, if that's what you need, you should be in something that matches that style. But so what I try to do is, over the years, get more and more comfortable not over promising and under delivering. And so it's like, hey, this is what we are, this is what we not, and this is who I am, and this is who I'm not, and this is why I'm hot, and this is why I'm not. Generally speaking, we have to have those mechanisms. So it's like, yo, when people come in, they know what they can kind of expect. BSN is an ecosystem. We're here. It's like, being a part of a sorority or any other professional group. Like, it's a place to come in. If we find a great opportunities, we're going to share them. If you have something great that's happening, we're going to share it. If I know of a person that can help you, or a person that has a podcast you get booked on, we're going to share that. If you have a person that you just may need to collaborate or work with, I'm going to share it. So it's a no gatekeeping type of thing, but it's not meant to be this panacea for, hey, pay $25, $35 and money's going to fall out the computer. It doesn't really work like that, but you have to communicate that. And, that's something that you learn as an entrepreneur over time. Like, what is the core value proposition of your offer? And is it enough? Like, is it what people actually want? And give them the opportunity to decide if it's something. If you have feedback, everybody in BSN, any email that we send out, if you click reply, it comes right to me. So there's no hiding. It's like, hey, if you got a question, let us know. But yeah, the unhelpful feedback, the kind of sits at a place of trying to, I guess, for lack of a better word, displace some of maybe, things that they don't want to do or can't do. Now, if it just comes from a place of, hey, I just don't know, great. That's fine. I love to educate. I love helping people, see the resource. I love helping people understand why things are the way they are. But just coming from a place of more entitlement, then I generally just kind of ignore it. Or if they're a member, then I got to address it because I don't ignore customers. But if they're not a member, I tend to just kind of ignore it. And the other type of criticism comes from people who aren't really there to try to help you at all. They're really just trying to get you off your game and whatever. So it's one of the reasons I keep my comments off and my notifications off.
Okay. Well, man, we're about to wrap this up. And so, what do you have coming up? What's on the horizon for 2026?
So much, man. Like you said, we leaned in heavy to digital programming. So I'm not sure when y'all are watching this. If you're watching live now, congratulations. So on the 20th of January, this session, we have a free session coming up on Thursday with Graphy, where we're talking about the power of ownership. So I mean, as you know, Mills, I mean, we're kind of in this environment now where ownership is everything, and not just owner of physical assets, intellectual property, content. And so we're going to have an incredible conversation with Crystal Berger, another great BSN member. She'd be great for you to interview too, by the way, at some point if you like. But generally speaking, I'm excited about that live conversation we got coming up Thursday at 12. And then on Saturday, we have our YouTube masterclass coming up with Keandra. This is our 4th time hosting it. Keandra is incredible because she actually has built a followership. I watched her build from 0. She just hit over 15,000. She has multiple YouTube videos that have done between 10 and 50,000 views. And one of her top videos has done 96,000 plus views. And so she's going to be talking about how to get your first 1,000 subscribers. That program is only $99. So if you are a person who's like, I don't have a YouTube account, or I do have a YouTube account and I haven't done anything with it, that might be a great resource to plug in. But we are having programming all throughout the year, man. As I mentioned, we have 6-minute talks. And so now every Black Speakers Network member has the opportunity to submit a 6-minute talk where you're answering one specific question about your industry. Not two, not three, one. And that's positioned across 5 platforms, kind of like a mini TED Talk, if you will. Not that I want to invoke their branding because I don't want to get sued, but basically, it's an opportunity. Again, anybody that's in the Black Speakers Network ecosystem can have a stage at a minimum once a month. We'll probably expand it as we go, but that's another cool resource that's out there. So we're just gonna keep doing what we're doing, man. Creating stages, equipping speakers, still sharing speaking resources and opportunity, and really plugging people into the places that we think they can grow and thrive in 2026.
Awesome, awesome. Brian, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. You're just a wealth of knowledge and wisdom that I know that you've blessed people that are going to hear this conversation. And so again, I thank you so much. And you know, Brian is not hard to find, just like Coach Prime's not hard to find. Brian's not hard to find either. So reach out to him if you have questions about the Black Speakers Network and some of his other endeavors. And so with that being said, I appreciate you tuning in today. Change happens one person at a time, 1 second at a time. Let's go.
Let's go. Thank you, Mills.
Welcome. We're off.